Hey everyone, so today's video we're going to be going over Corrupt Orakh, which got a recent buff in the latest balance patch. He also got an indirect buff from Guan Yu, because the way that his trait works, it counts as a bonus attack within the coding of the game. So I'll show you how that interaction kind of plays out. It's really cool. And he also got kind of a counter because of Guan Yu, because he's usually built extremely slow. And if somebody has a Guan Yu built at a 5, the Guan Yu can counterattack him at the end of the turn and basically one-shot him. So if you have a Guan Yu opponent and he's A5, he basically counterattacks with the ultimate with 300% damage and one-shots him. So yeah, buff plus a nerf because of Guan Yu being in the game. But anyway, that's beside the point. We're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about his buff and if he's viable. So let's chat a little bit. So his trait says, at the start of the round, deals true damage equal to 12% of this hero's max health to all enemies. This used to be 8%, actually, and they increased it to 12%. So this is a nice little buff. And then they also added with a 30% chance of applying silence to the target for one turn. Now, this is a good thing and a bad thing. On paper, it's good. But the problem is now that the silence is on the trait, you don't have the ability to avoid heroes that counterattack with any kind of crowd control negative effect. Heroes like Karma, heroes like Royce, heroes like Kelowna, and then to an extent heroes like Shark Solandre. So having this on a trait is a good thing and a bad thing. If your opponent doesn't have any of those heroes, then that's great. This is really good for the trait. But if they do, this is a real downside, which is why I think Corrupt Orakh is a little bit of a liability on defense, arena defense. I still think a high focus kind of stun build is viable for RTA. He's just going to be more of a niche pick at that in that range, so you do have to be careful with that. On the Awakened ability, it's the same thing, except whenever he is below 50% of his health, all of his damage at the beginning of the round is going to increase to 24% of his max health. This was a huge boost. I think this is a really, really nice Awaken ability and allows you to build Corrupt Orakh in a different way, especially if he's Ascended. But if he isn't Ascended, I also have another build that I think is kind of viable in RTA setting. It's still not great, just because of how the mechanics in the game work. And again, we'll touch on that here in a second. Okay, so his basic ability deals 50% damage to an enemy, and then the damage scales with his max health. So all of his damage is based on max health, which is why you just want to build him very, very high health. His special ability deals 100% damage to an enemy, and it restores 20% of max health, and then grants max health up to 2 turns. So it increases his health by 15%, which helps his damage output on all of his abilities, as well as his trait at the beginning of the rounds. So this is a really nice special ability. Not only does it increase his damage, but it also heals him up. So really nice. And then his ultimate ability removes all positive effects from an enemy and then deals 100% damage to them and applies silence for 2 turns. This silence on his ultimate also can't be removed. This was a buff like 2 balance patches ago, so it was a really nice buff, especially for a focused build Corrupt Orakh. A couple things to note here. Actually, just one thing. The removing of positive effects does require focus. The reason why it requires focus is because of this little comma here, where applying the silence and removing the positive effects is all in the same effect. So the silence requires that focus, and because it's tied to the removing of all positive effects, that's why that requires the focus. You'll see on some heroes where removing positive effects doesn't require focus at all. That's the reason why. So that is a bit of a bummer. So a traditional build on Corrupt Orakh is with the Rebel set and Guard, just making him tanky, making him a pest, proccing up, a possibility of those stuns 20% at the beginning of the round with his trait, and then also on any of his skills if he's targeting, a single target to unlock that stun. So the way that this build is built is just really high health and then trying to get some focus substats. So that's what you're going to be seeing on these pieces here, just health and focus. Some other, maybe sustain substats like defensive percentage, resistance, agility, something of that nature. So that's what I was going for here. On the relics, he does have a flat attack stat. This is something that people, I think, throw away too quickly. There are some niche pieces where attack, like flat attack, flat defense, flat health, is viable. On heroes like Corrupt Orakh that are getting a lot of his utility out of his health, he doesn't really need attack percentage or crit damage. You can build him with that, but you're going to take away from his trait and the rest of his abilities scaling off of that max health if you focus on attack percentage and crit damage and things like that. So this relic is nice because it's just straight damage or damage received. I did get an unlucky roll here with the crit damage. This really doesn't do much, but the rest of the substats are good. It's just straight damage dealt, and then damage against and damage received. So it makes him tanky and deals a little more damage on his abilities. He does have a health percentage tome. He gets PvP health, which is nice. That's really about it, other than the attack dealing bonus damage. And then I don't have a better grail either. So I have PvP mode, attack, and health percentage. Now, the other build that I'm kind of liking now with his buff is Dragon Scale. So you just take full advantage, especially if he is awakened, of that 24% max health if he goes below 50%. So he's just crazy tank. Really high health, really high defense. So the focus, there's no focus on these pieces, but because he's a light and dark hero, they automatically come with 50% focus. This is actually a downside. You don't want him to have any kind of focus to land the silence on his trait, because this will proc heroes, like I said, like Karma, Royce, Kelowna, which is a real downside for him. So I wish I could get this down to 0, but I can't because of the mechanics of the game. So the two different places that you can use this. So a stun set is actually really good against specific arena defenses, anything twin related, Orakh, Vengeful Hassle. If they don't have a Karma, if they don't have Royce, Kelowna, all of those heroes, a stun set is completely viable. I don't think you should be running a stun set if you're using Corrupt Orakh on defense. I think you should be running the Dragon Scale. Stun set is really good for PvE. I'll show you the team that I use him in for faction challenges. He's a great faction challenge hero. I use the stun set there. And then RTA, it could go either way. If you're running the stun set in RTA, it's okay, but you really have to be careful of those heroes that I've already mentioned, because he could just be a huge liability. I would probably tend to lean towards the Dragon Scale build for RTA, go with that 50% focus and hope that it just doesn't land or it gets resisted. But yeah, that's the way that I would build that. So first things first, let's go into the faction challenges, because I have him in the stun set, and just show you my team here. So I usually farm just stage 23. If you guys are stuck on stage 20, this same team will work for stage 20 as it does on 23. You might just have to deal with some RNG to get some lucky stuns or whatever. Hope, the Lydia doesn't dodge and one-shot people, or so on and so forth. So this team just utilizes Adet and Corrupt Orakh to do all of your damage, and then you have Bruzak and Jocasta in there to just keep your team healthy, because Adet has damage over time effects at the end of the round based on negative effects. We'll talk about that. And then Corrupt Orakh does the damage at the beginning of the round. So you're getting like somewhere around 18,000 damage just at the end and beginning of the round. So he goes there, gets the 6,000 damage. Sadly, he didn't get any stuns or silences, so that was a little unlucky. But the Adet will go in, increase the negative effects here, and then do big damage at the end of the round. So 12,000 there, 6,000 for Corrupt Orakh, and then we clear the wave. So we did get a silence here, so that was kind of nice. And we have the Bruzak in there for that reason, to protect the Adet, you know, to die and then deal our entire team damage. So 14,000 there from Adet, and then he did more damage that time because he has that max health buff on him from his special ability. So clear that round, and then we go into this last round, get 2 more silences, and then Adet goes in, does her big negative effect ultimate ability. 14,000, and then, yeah, so it's a pretty quick run. I think it's fairly safe as well, and that's how I utilize Corrupt Orakh in the stun set. So let's finish out this round here real quick, and we'll jump into Arena, and I'll show you the 2 different builds. Alrighty. Oh, of course he gets the dodge. Make the video a little bit longer. So there we go. Okay, so getting into Arena, the first thing that I want to show you is how he interacts with Guan Yu. It's something that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. So we'll see teams, you know, similar. Let's refresh, actually. Let's see if we can get a twin team. I'm too low in my rankings. So here, I'll just show you the interaction with Guan Yu. So here's Guan Yu, and we'll use Cordelia to morph the Orakh, and we'll bring in SSA to deal with the Lightning. Okay, so here you'll see at the beginning of the round, Corrupt Orakh will do his attack, and Guan Yu will come in with the bonus attack. So that's a really cool interaction. It's really nice that they pair so well together. So we'll just trigger the Guan Yu here so we can end up killing this Orakh. Perfect. And then just finish out this team. So that is the interaction with Guan Yu. It's really nice. Added benefit of Corrupt Orakh in there, and just shows the power of Guan Yu as well. And then we'll go in against some tougher teams here in 3v3. So can't fight any of these people because they're teammates. So this is, like, these are teams that you want to avoid with the stun set Corrupt Orakh, right? You have SSA in here. You have Karma that's going to trigger. No bueno, right? No good. Teams like this with Royce, Kelowna, I mean, you're just seeing the amount of teams where a crowd control Corrupt Orakh is just not going to be something that you should do. This is where you can bring in that Dragon Scale Corrupt Orakh and just hope that the 50% focus isn't something that's going to be a downside for you. So if we bring in the Dragon Scale one, we're just going to go straight tank. And again, hope that this stuff doesn't proc. So we can use our Corrupt Orakh, you know, with other tanky heroes that, you know, aren't going to die. So we have a Cordelia here that we kind of have to worry about. Maybe we just bring in a Kelowna to deal with her. If I can find her right in front of my face. Okay. So that's what we'll do. So again, we're going to hope that we don't get any silences or anything like that, to proc the Kelowna at the beginning of the round. So we did, sadly, we silenced one of those heroes. But we will persevere. So one of the problems with running the low focus Corrupt Orakh is situations like this where if you wanted to remove the Invincible or something from the Jabez, you might not be able to because you don't have enough focus. So that is something to think about. But hopefully, we have enough sustain here from our Corrupt Orakh that we just end up, chipping away at the enemy here. So doing 6,000 damage, pretty nice. We're also getting unlucky. We keep proccing the silence. You see what I mean here with the game mechanics being kind of a negative. So here, this is a situation where Corrupt Orakh, if he was ascended, he'd be doing 24% of his max health instead of just 8%. So instead of the 5 there, it would be double. So I think you guys can see, the amount of damage that he could definitely be doing. So here, we'll try and chip down on this beefy. it's actually a negative to have Corrupt Orakh in here versus this Holy Armor Virgil, but we have our boy Balberith in here, which is eventually going to take out this Holy Armor Virgil. I have faith in him, but yeah, he's healing so much. It's that buff that Holy Armor Virgil got too. Okay, so let's see if this takes him out. Nice. Okay. Balberith just doing Balberith things. So this is a great team to use Corrupt Orakh in a stun set, right? So they don't have any kind of crowd control mitigation. You can utilize the Corrupt Orakh in his stun set, hopefully get some kind of silence or stun from the Rebel set. It's definitely what you're hoping for. A couple reasons, the Desdemona can be a real problem. The twins, if they are crowd controlled, they actually don't get their traits. Their traits won't proc. And then if we get a silence or a stun on the Orakh, that's great because then we can just utilize the Cordelia to take him out. So this is one of those instances that you're hoping. Okay, so we got 2 silences, which is really nice. Sadly, you didn't silence the Orakh there, which is a bit of a bummer. But we will be able to still morph him. So we're just kind of going after the Desdemona here. Take out that Orakh. And here that just little chip damage, from the Corrupt Orakh is going to help, seal this. Now, if this was an RTA match, we'd be in much worse shape because the Desdemona wouldn't have, targeted the Guan Yu or anything like that. But this is definitely one of those scenarios where the Rebel set is more viable. So just mixing and matching. I don't know which build is better. The stun set still might be the best build, but if he's Awakened, I really think the Dragon Scale build is just better. to have him be in there and be pesky. But it's just a quick little video on Corrupt Orakh where I've been using him. He does get a little bit better because of the interaction with Guan Yu. And yeah, that's all I got, guys. Hope you enjoy. Hope you're having a nice weekend. Catch you on the next one.